using that experience to get new beer drinkers into craft beer.
So how did you, so you mentioned how your beers are maybe a little bit different than what a lot of people are used to. How did you guys get going down that route? Well, how did you pick that as kind of the route you wanted?
I think that was a big part of how Michael and I got in touch.
Yeah, so I had been, so the weird thing is back in, it was 2009, picked up, my wife and I spotted a Mr. Beer kit on closeout at Target.
Yeah.
Thought it'd be fun for the kids. Our kids were in college and had started drinking beer. Primarily my younger son was into sour beers and wild fermented beers. Okay. So I started making those kinds of beers primarily because of my son. And when Chris and I met and some other partners, these were all the styles of beer that they were all passionate about. And so, you know, really, the beers that we were known for, really, you can edit this because I'm rambling. But
It's okay, rambling's just fun.
Yeah, so anyway, a lot of our beers have always appealed to the serious craft beer enthusiast.
Okay.
And so we get more reviews on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate and Untapped than most of the other breweries, because the people that are drinking most of our beers, as now we're growing into more stuff, but people that drink a lot of the styles of beer that we're known for are the ones that will have a beer and they'll review it online and make sure that that's. So we've got so many different reviews.
When we first started, it was kind of a void in the market for those styles of beers too. You know, there were some breweries we looked up to, like Jester King and Crooked Stave, Jolly Pumpkin, and no one was Side Project. There was no one really doing those styles of beers locally year round. You know, using real fruit and stuff like that. And so I think that was part of what got some excitement in folks when we first started. But then things have really shifted. So like those beers for those type of beer lovers are still super important, super crucial. But there's so many more people getting into craft beer that I use the term kind of jumping the shark. Like they're not starting with like this traditional light classy beers that we started on. They're getting it straight into like giant stouts and triple, double IPAs. And so when we first started, it made a lot of sense to start with the wine bottles, the 750s, do it all by hand, do these things. But the kind of the tastes have shifted, and so now we're trying to merge this back together and do it back.
So we're known for our sour beers, and our challenge and goal this year is to make people aware that we're a lot more than just sour beers.
Okay.
So we do our sour beers, like I mentioned before, we do them differently. And by doing it, by having all of our sour beers with live cultures and live yeast, the beer actually gains complexity in the can, as opposed to going stale. The shelf life, although we set it at maybe 120 days, some of these just get better and better all the time.
Really?
So by having the live cultures in there. But it also makes, the reason normal or smarter breweries don't do it that way is it's very risky, it's more time consuming, and necessitates extreme amount of cleaning. So our brewers will spend probably 4 hours cleaning for every hour spent brewing.
Wow.
Because cleaning is so critical when we do the mixed cultures that we do, and we do the sour beers with the live cultures of lactose.
So not only do you guys
extremely important.
So not only do you guys have to clean, but you have to fully sanitize everything to get rid of rid of all the bacteria. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So that way, when you do one brewery, so you have your wort that you're making back there, and you make one, and then you take all that out. Before you put something else in there, you have to make sure that's fully sterilized, so that you don't get cross contamination.
We've got not super complex equipment, but we've got like an ATP tester that not every brewery has. And ATP is a part of cellular activity, so we can check a tank and say it's not going to tell us this bacteria is here or this yeast is here, but it'll tell us something's still alive, clean again. And so that's something that we utilize on pretty much everything in between. Transfers.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Very critical.
So you mentioned before several breweries that you guys kind of looked up to. Those are not local. Those are kind of out in other areas.
Yeah.
Okay. So around, basically, kind of around.
But so it's nice because it's kind of grown. Like there's much more often that we're doing tastings or something. It's a lot less common that we have to explain what a sour beer is, because almost every brewery now is doing some kind of sour.
Right.
Like maybe a special seasonal or one-off, but they've at least tried it or they've shared it. We still don't necessarily it's not like everybody is a sour beer fan, everyone's a sour beer lover, but at least when we're saying this is a sour beer, we're not always having to kind of explain what that is, and that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
We've also found that when we come across people that say they don't like beer, and will sometimes say, do you like wine? And they say, well, of course.
Yeah.
And I said, well, just try this. And they'll take a sip of the sour beer. It's like, oh my gosh, that's really good.
Yeah.
They're not hoppy. They don't have as much the same kind of grain profile and yeast profile, so they don't taste like your typical beer, which is.
It's more like a tart wine in flavor profile.
That's really interesting because a lot of what you guys are showing back there, especially with the bottles and stuff, does have some more parallels with what you would see in kind of a wine
Absolutely. All right, wine, cider.
Yeah, right. So can you talk about you mentioned a little bit before about your working within the community and some of the nonprofits and stuff that you work with and how you guys support the community. Can you maybe talk about some specifics there about like some things you guys are really passionate about, some of the projects here that you guys really care about?
Biggest one that we do year round is Thundergong. So that's when we work in collaboration with Jason Sudeikis and Steps of Faith Foundation.
Okay.
So Thundergong, the event, is an annual benefit concert he hosts every year where he invites all of his musician friends and a lot of his former SNL castmates and stuff. And it's always been a live concert at Uptown, but the last couple of years they've turned into a virtual event as well. And so Steps of Faith is an organization that gets prosthetics to amputees in need, folks that wouldn't be able to get insurance covering it. They might not have insurance at all. And for a lot of people, that's if you don't have a leg, it's really hard to literally get back on your feet and get moving again. So that's one that's really important to us, that we decided to make that a year-round feature, that we're always going to have that beer available. And this year's batch the beer itself is better than we've ever done before. There's been a lot of national collab projects that it's easy enough for us to get behind and say we'll partake in that, where somebody's created a special maybe it's a special beer, like you're going to brew the same recipe and you're going to donate the proceeds to another organization that benefits what we're focusing on at that time. Let's see, we've done stuff with locally, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Boys and Girls Club. We've worked with.
If you take a look, people take a look at the Crane Care section of our website, you'll see hundreds of charities that we support.
Okay.
Some of them are supported by specific beers that we'll brew for an organization, and some are supported by donating beer to fundraisers that they do and auctions. And a lot of the times we'll actually create a beer for an organization and do a special celebration here in the tap room, and they'll bring people out and they can share information about the particular charity. We do a lot with different animal rescues. Midwest Animal Rescue Mart is right around the corner, so we do a lot of those events. Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome.
So far.
Wow.
But Chris only has one dog right now, and I think 2 or 3 is ideal because he's got 3 kids. He needs 3 dogs.
Yeah, you use one.
But we got a couple of pups, one from Midwest, another from another organization. But yeah, we're also just love doing things to help charities, and we feel that we've been successful because of support from the community, and I think it's important for us to give back to that community.
And sometimes it can be, we're not a huge business, so we do our best raising funds, but sometimes it's recognizing that we are literally have the ability to print something on a can that we can put a message on it and share, just getting the word out about different causes and stuff. We had an issue a while back with some real hate on immigrants in our community, and there was people who are angry and frustrated and decided to take it out on things that are really not the issue of causes. And so we did a special collaboration where we raised money for advocate for immigrants in town, and that was something, that's something that we could kind of really spread what's going on with their community and what they do.
Okay. So how do you guys? So when you guys make a brew or a beer, and then you're going to distribute it, so you can it, and then the proceeds of that beer are going to some kind of to support some organization. Right. How do you choose where to distribute those? How can people find those to support you?
So a lot of those they can definitely find at the tap room. We'll share with our distributors outside of the market. Yeah. Our home distributor does an amazing job sharing our beers and sharing what we do, but they're a little bit bigger, and so they kind of work on a tighter schedule. And so a lot of these special projects, we're turning on a dime to get them done,
Right.
and so it's a little bit harder to get those into our local shelves. And so best places people can make the biggest impact too is when they come to the tap room to purchase, because we also get more margin on those beers, and so we're able to raise more money to donate.
Okay. So a lot of the donations that you guys are doing, or the special projects you guys are doing, you're selling here, and then when people purchase those, the proceeds you guys are putting, but you're able to put more to that because you get a larger margin of what you're selling
Correct.
here than you would.
Yeah, I think it's people are learning more, just kind of the nature of there being more breweries and more local wineries, but distribution is an interesting thing because they give us an opportunity to share our beer more widely,
Right.
but there's also cuts. So we sell our beer for about a third of the price or more, or less than what we could out of our tap room.
Right. Okay. But it gives you the exposure, so people see it on the shelves.
It's a balance, yeah.
Right. Okay. That's cool.